Well, it is February. That means that if you haven't started thinking about taxes, you should be. Because here in the US, our taxes are due April 15th. And that is the ultimate, like, last day to be able to get them in. I've never been the kind of person that has waited till that date. Like, my taxes will be probably turned in next week for all I know. But, but we're going to be talking about taxes so that you can get familiar and start to begin understanding what are the things that I need to be thinking about, what are the things that I have to put together so that I can be not having to pay as much as I might have to. And some of you might be shocked at how much you actually need to pay. So we're going to be chatting about that today. And I am going to start with this little caveat. Okay, you guys, we are not tax professionals. And if this is your very first year as a tutor, it should be the number one thing that you decide to do this year with your business is to hire somebody to walk you through this process, because that's what I did. This is what Kyle did. This is what Jasmine did. We all sought out the proper people, but that doesn't mean that we have memorized all of the proper steps and that everything that we say is 100% legit. Okay. So make sure that you do your homework and you do it properly. Don't just rely on this episode or this podcast to be able to figure it out for you guys. Okay. But these are things that you will need to take into consideration. So we've got Jasmine Boyle here, and she is from Canada. And we've got Kyle Simon, and he is here from the U.S. And myself, I'm also from the U.S. So we're going to start with Jasmine. I'm curious, do you have this, what's your tax day? Do you have like a big tax day in Canada?
Yeah, basically the tax day is April. I think it's April 1st.
Oh, okay.
But I know that the all the new rules and legislation, the window opens up on February 24th for 2019 to start filing the taxes, right? The business taxes. So right now, all you can do is look at the info, but it's all a year old, right? So they might have some new updated policies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think it's April 1st or April 15th. Can't remember. I just said I've been sending my stuff off. So as long as I send it off, I'm good.
Yeah. I hear you. It's like you've been taking care of all of the steps that you need to take care of, like you already know now. So what are some of the things that you need to get together to be able to send on off?
So what I use is I use Dubsado for my accounting and my invoicing and everything. So at the end, I can do, I can run some reports and I get all my numbers in, my expenses in, and I'm continuously using that throughout the year. So every time I have a receipt for something that I've spent on, if I'm seeing face-to-face clients, I, use my fuel receipts, my gas receipts, and I add those in as an expense. And if I have to buy some more printing paper or some more ink for the printer, I add that in as an expense. So I've been using Dubsado and I've been using the Wave Receipts app to take a picture of all my receipts so that I don't have to carry them or worry about them fading, because I've had that happen so many times. I have receipts saved in my wallet because, they're important, but they fade because they're on that heat transfer receipt paper.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you can't read it. So, when you spend, $1,000 on a computer, you kind of need that receipt.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Yeah. So what I've been basically doing is the general like minimum that you should be saving, because you have to save for your provincial taxes and you have to save for your federal taxes. Everything gets filed federally, but it goes through, you follow the rules for the province you're in as of December 31st of that year.
Mm-hmm.
So especially for me, because I was in Alberta for 9 months of the year, but then I just recently moved back to Ontario. All my rules are Ontario rules because
Sure.
I was in Ontario on December 31st.
Got it. So that's what really determines then where you're going to be filing from.
Yes, exactly.
Or to.
Yeah. And the basic rules are all on the federal website, the CRA, the Canadian Revenue Agency. I think the website is cra.gc. tax.gov or something like that. Easy Google search. And then you can file your taxes independently. You can file them up to a certain point of income. It still just qualifies as sole proprietor or self-employed. Like you don't need a business if you make, you have a ceiling limit of $11,000 a year before you have to start claiming it as a business.
Okay.
So everything else below that is just like self-employed income.
Got it.
That you just add as, an extra line to your 150 line, which is your final income total on all the tax forms. It's line 150.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
You guys got that? So this is so we're talking about the taxes here in Canada. For those of you that are just joining us, we've got Lynn Wilson in the house, and we've got Beth. Hello. And Beth, just so you know, I cannot see anybody from the Facebook group. I don't know why it's not coming on up in my feed here. So if you see any questions, Beth, please check out the Facebook and respond over there. And then if you could add their comments into here if we need to address them, that would be awesome. And so, when you're thinking about things that are expenses for your business, what things qualify as expenses in Canada?
Lots of things. And I mean, there's so many things out there on Pinterest, and I know practically every tax professional has a list of what qualifies, what percentage of your house qualifies as an office, what percentage you can charge for mileage if you're doing face-to-face tutoring, what, there's a list. Your tax professional will definitely have a list to make sure that they are relevant and current. And then from there, it's just getting those numbers and keeping track. I have a whole note on my phone that I calculated exactly how many kilometers to and from my local students. And then I get 58 cents on the kilometer. That I can charge for mileage, basically. For the face-to-face, for the internet tutoring, I can charge if I have a pro account on anything. So my Canva account, my Zoom account, my anything, basically. My, all my hardware. If I have a tablet, a writing tablet, if I have anything for marketing, any business cards. So everything is all categorized by category. So I have a marketing category. I have service expenses, to keep my business that are ongoing, my subscriptions. I just have a whole list. I just use Google Sheets and I write everything down as soon as I sign up for it. So,
nice.
So that, I have a personal and a business, and then sometimes I can kind of overlap them. If I'm using my computer for mostly business, it counts as a business expense.
Yes.
I think there's a specific percentage, but you have to check with a tax professional of, the percentage of if your computer is using for your business, like 80%, it qualifies. I'm not sure the number.
Okay.
And then I just, at the end of the year, I just print all my reports from Dubsado. I print screenshots. I have a screenshot thing for my Chrome, and I do screenshots. I do expenses. I do income and loss reports. And then I just send it all off, and they're the ones who make sure it gets all done. When I'm working, they usually say keep 30 to 35% for taxes, just in case. And then if you don't end up paying it, if you're still within that 11,000 limit, it stays yours. But then you have, a nice chunk of change at the end of the year or the beginning of the next year.
Which would be beautiful, right? I mean, it's better to be able to get a tax refund than to get a tax bill.
Yes,
Trust me, I ran into that one year. It was not fun. I remember the heartache that it caused, the stress that it caused. Because of that. Do you guys know, here in the U.S., we have to file our taxes quarterly if we're a business. Do you have to do that at all in Canada?
I think if you're within a certain bracket of income, you do.
Okay.
I'm still within the lower bracket. So I save the money. I'm allowed to file if I have a business number and all that stuff. But I usually just save the money till the end of the year.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it works for me. I know lots of other people who stress about it and worry about it all through the year, and that's what they do.
Now, how did you go about finding somebody that could help you with doing your taxes?
Well, my basically, when I was living in Calgary, there was someone I made sure knew about online businesses and businesses that were not product businesses. So a service online business.
Mm-hmm.
And the person we hired for our household taxes knew how to do that. So I got lucky. Because there was a lot of other stuff we needed them to do, and they qualified for that as well. There was a lot of other sticky issues that we needed to worry about. And then when I moved back to Ontario, turns out my sister's best friend does tax preparation, and her father is a financial advisor. So I said, okay, what do you need from me? And I just sent it all over, and I did it all in January. So I'm just waiting for them to file it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just sitting here twiddling my thumbs.
Nice. That's a beautiful place to be, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I actually
making
have
a list of everything I want to buy.
Yeah. I actually have, my husband actually files ours, so I just have to use QuickBooks. And so it's the QuickBooks for small business, and all I end up doing is putting all of my receipts and everything inside of there. It connects all of my Stripe and PayPal accounts and my bank account all there, so I always know like what numbers are inside of there, which are super, super nice. It gives me suggestions on what I should even pay for my quarterly taxes, and that makes it just a really easy, simple system to be able to use at the end of the day. Do they have like TurboTax or anything out there in Canada?
Yeah, we have all of that. QuickBooks is also called Intuit, is the Canadian name, but everybody knows it as QuickBooks.
Yes.
There's a lot of people that use Wave. I love Wave. And they do connect with PayPal and Stripe and Etsy and all that stuff. So if you're doing online stuff that way, and they do account reconciliation as well. And I just, because I'm keeping it like low key, and I'm not, you know, I'm just starting back on everything since moving back. I just have, 8 students right now. So I'm not full time. I'm not crazy busy. And that's basically where I'm at. So it's manageable to keep track of for me. And then I just send it to the people to make sure that they press send and update and submit and everything.
That's awesome. Now, do you remember your first year when you started tutoring?
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. What kinds of fears or thoughts kind of went through you as you started thinking about that first tax season?
Well, I wanted to keep everything, but I'm so particular about all these numbers that I want to know where I'm constantly at. Like how much income have I actually made? How much is, profit? How much is expenses and stuff like that? Because I have to budget.
Right.
So I have to budget, like regular daily, what do I have for groceries kind of money? And then from there, so I kind of kept myself regularly updated with where my income was at and what was expenses. So the first year, what happened is I just saved everything, and I had this giant, massive like document and pictures and PDFs and screenshots that I sent to the tax person. And I did this fancy spreadsheet with all these like every course listed that I took, and the expense of it, and if it was a membership type of expense, I did it all. And then I also had to do because most courses online are in US dollars. So I have to do the conversion rate, and then I have to go back into my bank account and see what was the conversion rate on that day that it processed. Mm-hmm. Because today's conversion rate for $50 is different than yesterday's conversion rate.
Yeah, good point.
So that was fun.
That would be a blast. So now you take care of that like right away.
Yeah. Then I don't have to go scroll through like my bank account statements and stuff like that, and just find it. So yeah, I made sure that I was super paranoid about everything. So I made sure I labeled each course name. Really, they just want to know what you spent on education and courses. So I had each course labeled out, and I said, okay, this is how much it was, and in American dollars, and then this is how much it was processed at, then minus, if it was something that I was offering, I had to also remember to take, to go check my PayPal T4 and figure out the fees, because that's part of your taxes too, is knowing the cost of doing business. And that's the money that you basically, put as an expense, but that's it.
Yeah, we had a question. Somebody was asking if Tutorbird does the same things as Dubsado. Now, I've not used Tutorbird to do my tracking. I know that I can upload receipts. I know that I can track my expenses inside of there. It's a little bit putzier, and I'm gonna assume that Dubsado is pretty much very much more like QuickBooks, where it's really, really seamless.
I think Tutorbird focuses mainly on the scheduling aspects of running your tutoring business, and Dubsado really focuses on the forms aspect, like having your contracts and your workflows organized. Okay. So they're both great, and I know QuickBooks integrates with Dubsado, and QuickBooks have an integration, QuickBooks Online. So it has to be the QuickBooks Online version, not the self-employed. And then everything gets tracked through that. So you just have both of those, and they talk to each other. Nice. I think it's directly. It's not even through a Zap. It's direct.
Yeah. My QuickBooks does talk to my TurboTax, because they're the same company that created it. So that works really, really nice. I'm not sure that Tutorbird though has that integration. I've not seen that, which then takes that seamless kind of aspect out of it a bit. But let's say you are a first-year person. You don't have the money to be able to afford these other tools that we're talking about. You can use, I did use a spreadsheet just in my first year. I did keep like a hard copy of all of my receipts so that I had them, and I had them organized by month, ready to go, so that I could just hand them on over to my husband when he was ready to take them to the tax person. And it's not like you have to go through these complicated things in the beginning, but I'm going to tell you, they are going to save you a ton of time, a ton of headache. You're not going to have to guess like which kinds of things can I use as an expense and which things can't I use as an expense. You don't really have to go through that questioning, because there's already categories and stuff in those tools that make it a lot easier.
Yeah, well, WaveApps is brilliant for it's like the poor man's QuickBooks. So and it has it has a receipts app that you can put on your phone. So you just take all the pictures with your phone,
nice,
and it stores them. And it actually, what it does is the app on your phone talks to the program, and it collaborates that way. So WaveApps .com, I think, or wave.app. Something like that. If you search it up and you go Wave budgeting, it'll pop up on Google. So that's definitely, I would say, if you want more financial stuff to focus on, then use Wave. If you want more of like the all-in-one, you can go Tutorbird and Dubsado or 17 Hats or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could use WaveApps in the US. Do you know?
I believe so. I helped people in the States set it up. So
yeah, then it must be something that you can check on out. And how much is that one per month? Do you know?
Free.
It's free. So there you go. So why wouldn't you?
Exactly. So I even have that, but I don't rely on it because
sure.
Yeah. But I mean, awesome. It does personal, and you connect your bank accounts to it and reconcile your accounts, and there's tons of YouTube videos on it.
Very cool. That's awesome. See, you guys, we're all learning something new here that we didn't even know about. Well, at least I am. So I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one. But so definitely check that out. WaveApps.com it's free. It's something like that in the name. Possibly Beth can get the link to it and throw it on in there for us. But that seems like a really useful tool. I love when the apps that you use to be able to track your expenses, you can use like travel expenses, like you just start like tracking your mileage like right on your phone. I think that's so awesome.
Yeah. There's Mile IQ that does that. That's an app.
I use that one. I'm trying to figure out if I need it though, because I know QuickBooks just did an update with they have mile tracking now in their
They do.
QuickBooks app now, but I haven't dug into it yet.
Yep. And it's really easy to use. So if you already have access to it, yeah, you probably
Might as well save $50, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think
the free one is called WaveApps.
I found it. It's waveapps.com. WAVEAPPSAPPS. So waveapps.com.
Perfect.
And it's actually a Canadian company, but they do all the American and stuff. But they have they have like even fancy offers too. Like they hook up with certain banks that they give you some nice, fancy offers to do setups. And I think even some banks offer, if they help you with your QuickBooks, they help you with your Wave setup with your business account and stuff like that.
Awesome. Very, very cool. And then Mile IQ is another one for tracking mileage. If you don't have a tool that does that, it is really being able to have some way to track it versus having to do the odometer thing. Oh my gosh, when I got started back in 2010, you guys, that was the way we did it. Like I had to write down my starting odometer and my ending odometer mileage. And I gotta tell you, I'm kind of lazy. So I wouldn't. And then I would get yelled at by my husband because he'd be like, you need to track your mileage. And I'd be like, what's the big deal? It's a big deal. I have to say, yeah.
To add to that, you got to be careful now because I've found that this has been happening. I've been kind of fully trusting the Mile IQ to track everything. If you have like a Samsung phone or any phone that has like power saving modes, if you activate that, it kills your location transpondence. And then it doesn't track anything and it just says that, hey, you got a problem. If you don't have that notification like popping up to say that if there's a problem, it's not tracking it. So you just got to be careful. If I know my Samsung phone, it says, hey, do you want to save power? And if you hit it, it knocks out all of that stuff in the background and you can kind of get in trouble. So
here's another thing too. Make sure that you are plugged in when you are ever doing mile tracking, because your phone battery will die so quickly. I always find like, okay, we're just going to plug her on in. And then my kids will get mad at me because, somebody's always down to 5% somewhere. And they're like, but I'm down to 5%. I'd be like, but I'm driving.
I use Google Maps and I just check the trip.
Sure.
The trip length. And then I check how many appointments I've had with them because everything's on my Google Calendar. Yes. Everything's on my Google Calendar. And every student is color coded. So each student is a different color. So I just go and I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, and then I multiply that amount of trips by the round trip mileage, and then times it by 58 cents.
Nice, perfect. Now check out that you guys those numbers are always changing too. So make sure that you're always checking out what those mileage are. The nice thing about quick trips is quick trips. Apparently, I want to go to. Yeah, it's the gas station up the road. Oh my gosh! If you're using QuickBooks, you want to make sure if you're using that, the very cool thing is that it will already take that into consideration. You don't have to do any of that math. It does it for you. So that's having one of those other tools is kind of nice. It just saves you a few steps, which is. I like to be saved as many steps as possible. I really think that like QuickBooks has really put my business on autopilot when it comes to whole tax season, because I used to have to spend a few hours like putting it all together for my husband, along with the monthly and the weekly tracking that I did and all of that uploading and stuff. And now I just feel like I get a receipt, boom, it goes on in, and at the end of the year, he just prints out my reports. And so like now I'm completely like out of it as long as I keep up with it, which is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm gonna say goodbye, and I'll come back
it's already
and
that
check
time. I can't believe it. It's amazing how time goes by so fast when we're talking about such an interesting topic like taxes.
I find it interesting because I'm super paranoid and super anal about it all. So I'm like constantly.
This is the most important conversation for anyone to hear. Trust me.
Yeah.
Yes. I hear you. All right. Well, thank you for joining us and sharing with us all of the details about Canada taxes. That is a fantastic. You've been a fantastic resource, and we appreciate you. Have a great day, Jasmine.
Thanks, Jasmine. See you later.
Bye.
Now, you guys, I have worked with a friend who geeks out over taxes, and we have actually put together a pretty cool tool for you guys, which is a US reference guide. So if you're not in the US, this is not for you, okay? But it's a US reference guide that will kind of break everything down for you, because I know people always have questions about, should I be an LLC? Should I be a sole proprietor? Should I be an SCorp? Should I, do all those things? So we've got all of that information all in one wonderful document for you. It's about a 63-page document, so there's a lot of information there if you want to be able to know anything about U.S. taxes. Again, this is only for the U.S. And if you could do me a favor, Beth, and take that link and throw that into Facebook so people can see it, that would be fantastic. Well, we've got Kyle here. Kyle has been running his online tutoring business now for a while. You started off as in-person tutor as well, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I actually, my situation's a little bit different. I actually have my own office now, and I think I told you about that because I actually tutor all levels of math and ACT prep, but I also teach dance on the side as well. So I do a style of couples dancing called West Coast Swing, and I have been doing that for the past probably 8 or 9 years, and have been teaching that for about 4 or 5, and was running into a headache where I was tutoring at different libraries, I was teaching dance at different studios, and they never had the time slots that I needed open. And finally, I just said, I can't take this anymore, and I need to get both under one roof so that I could have my dance students during the day, and then I could go right into my tutoring stuff in the evening. And if I had somebody in person, which a lot of people were like, you know what, I'm not feeling the online quite yet. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Come on into the office. And then I could layer them and say in person, online, in person, online. And it wasn't a problem because I had my dedicated space. Now, before I did that, it was a very big decision for me because I didn't know if I could feasibly take that on. But I have to say that it was the best decision I've made personally with my business, because both are growing. It's given me the opportunity to do in-person group ACT classes, host ACT tests for numbers of students, host group dance classes, host private dance classes, that sort of thing. So, I've been in there since July, and I'm still working through those kind of the first year pains of expensing all of the things that I need for a space, because when you first walk in, you're like, wow, this is great. And then you realize this looks so unfinished. And I need to kind of get that together. So being an online business, if you're in that case, you don't have to worry about that, which is great. But I'm just kind of going through that pain period of shelling out a little bit of money to actually furnish things. And
absolutely. And then you do have people who are coming in person sometimes as well to the studio to do the tutoring because they want the in person, and you've been flexible and allowed that to happen, which is very, very cool. I love it. And then are you having to keep both of these businesses then separated?
Yes. So I have Breakthrough Tutoring, and then I have my dance business is called Fusion Swing. So both separate businesses, separate bank accounts. That's something we probably haven't talked about yet.
No.
I would say that anybody that is just starting out, getting your business separated from your personal accounts has to be number one, because it's so easy to get lost in the convolution of like everything. So that was a huge thing for me, especially on my tutoring business, to say, okay, I need an operations account where all my money is coming into it. I need a tax account where I'm just funneling money out of that operations into my tax account because I want the money there, not like you said, where you get that tax bill and you're like, I don't have the resources, right? And then a third account just for savings. And that was the best thing that I did, was keeping my payment to myself very, very low. Even though I had a lot of money coming in, it's not all yours.
Right.
It's the businesses, it's future expenses, especially with me taking on an office. I was so glad that I had that savings account with all of these funds in it, so that I could make that decision and not feel like if I didn't have a good month, then I was going to get kicked out of my office. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
So you definitely have to prepare for that. And I know I've had the conversation, I'm getting married in May. And my
Congratulations.
thank you. My fiance always asks, she's like, you know, you always tell me you got all this money coming in, but you're only paying yourself this. Like, what's the deal? And I'm like, well, nobody thinks about the business running, those
Right.
expenses that are happening month after month, and thinking about, okay, well, I can't rely on this like a regular job because it fluctuates. It's a roller coaster. Maybe it's raining and you get 20 students, and then all of a sudden you hit a low part and you get four,
Right,
and
right.
you have to have the funds available to kind of keep your income sustainable.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it is really tough in the beginning because you're trying to do everything right. And you know what I think feels I feel like when we're trying to do everything right, sometimes the tax thing totally goes out the door. We don't even start thinking about that. That's like not one of the very first things we start thinking about.
Hmm.
It's like the thing that we start thinking about when it's this time of year. But if I started in, like, let's say I started in June, well, I need to be start thinking about taxes in June when I get started because
Yeah,
I need to make sure I'm putting the right paperwork together. I'm taking all those receipts. I'm putting them out in one place so that they can easily be referenced if ever needed to be referenced. Because I had one person who told me, expect to be audited. Like, make that your expect it to be. And if you
yep,
don't, yay, you don't get audited. But if you are constantly thinking, you know what, there's a possibility I can get audited and people are going to ask for my tax records, you have nothing to hide when you're just doing everything the right way. A lot of
absolutely.
times now, a lot of times tutors, probably not you or I, but a lot of times tutors have run their business more as a hobby and have been paid under the table, especially if they're
Hmm.
like, you know, working with people at the library and they get paid and they're not really running it as a business. They are running it more as a hobby. But now that we move online, we have the ability to get more students and that kind of stuff. You can't hide your money from the government, guys. You cannot. Um,
That was
PayPal is
so
keeping
hard for me
track. Stripe
in the
is keeping
beginning.
track. Yeah. So
It was
so
so
what
hard.
was it like for you?
Well, in the beginning, I was just like Jasmine. I was keeping track of everything in a spreadsheet and keeping track of my income. And I was trying to sell packages of hours. And then I was trying to keep track of how many hours everybody had. It was a nightmare.
Yeah.
And I just remember so many people saying, "Here, I'll pay you in cash," under the table. And it was so easy to want to not record that if we're talking having an ethical discussion,
Yeah.
because you're like, wow, here's the cash. I could totally just take it under the table. But you have to get out of that mindset, and you have to say you have to go into your operations account and run that, because you could just keep doing that, and at the end, you got to have one way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So just like Jasmine, I use Dubsado. Um, I found it because I needed a way to keep track of my leads, and I needed a way for people to sign my contracts, and I needed a way to keep my invoices and schedule sessions and all of that. So I've kind of put together a system using Dubsado and Acuity
Mm-hmm.
scheduling. Because, like I said, with the packages, Acuity works great because it keeps track of how many
Sure.
everyone has left, so I don't have to do that anymore.
No more math.
Um,
That's nice.
no more math, and I'm a math teacher, right? But Dubsado it was a way to kind of automate more things, especially on the front end from my website. If people go in and type in their information on my contact form, they select, hey, are we looking for academic coaching for math? Are we looking for ACT prep? Or are we looking for both? And once they send it to me, their lead goes right into my system, and I have workflows set up to automatically send them schedulers, which
Mm-hmm.
with questionnaires, so that I can gain more insight and they can pick their day and time that they want to talk to me. And it makes it so much easier. Instead of me hounding people to work with me, they're setting up times with me, and I'm the person that can help. So it's
Mm-hmm.
really kind of streamlined my sales process
Yeah, that's
with that.
fantastic.
Um, and from just an accounting perspective, whenever they purchase any of my packages, I can, create their invoice right there and send them links to make payments.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I do it a little bit differently than the monthly, getting paid monthly, reoccurring. But
Right.
yeah, Jasmine was correct in saying that it links up right with QuickBooks.
Nice. Yeah.
The thing you got to watch out for, at least the headache that I've found with my accountant, is that no one really takes into account the I'm sorry, it got really, really bright where I'm at. No one really takes into account the transaction fees
Right.
when doing online payments. So if you charge somebody $1,000, well, that's not what's actually hitting your bank account. It's going to be 2.9% less than that because
Right.
those transaction companies take their fee. So when you're trying to basically just figure out, hey, how much money did you actually come in? You have to take that into account in QuickBooks and say, okay, here's the amount we received plus the fee, and that adds up to the gross. So that's been something my accountant and I've basically just put it all in his hands, and I go in on a quarterly basis to kind of walk him through my transactions and invoices, and we knock it out in a day instead of something you do every day.
Right,
So,
right. Yeah. Now, you had an interesting story you were sharing with me before about how you began seeking your tax accountant that you're specifically working with. So share that with us. What was your experience like?
Absolutely. So in the beginning, I was just like, I need somebody. I was trying to do it all on my own. I was stressing because I'm like, I don't know what paperwork to fill out. I don't know how much I need to be saving for taxes. And I ended up just kind of looking online, and again, anyone can have their ad online, and you just kind of pick somebody. And I remember meeting with him. Seemed like a good guy to work with, but when I needed him, I would call him and he would always send me to his assistant that didn't know anything about QuickBooks. And I couldn't get my accounts to link up with QuickBooks, and it was just like a big technical issue. And it was getting closer and closer to tax time, and I'm like, what am I going to do? And I ended up going to a QuickBooks class at one of my local libraries, and again, I still felt lost with QuickBooks even after that. But the woman that was sitting behind me, she's like, I can see you're stressed, and my accountant's really good. You should go talk with him. And I've been working with him for 2.5 years now, and everything is very clear. He wants to speak with me like I'm a student. Instead of just give me your stuff, he's actually always trying to help me understand it a little bit better. And it's comforting to know that you're staying on top of it on a quarterly basis instead of getting to the end of the year and you feel trapped or you don't have the money. So
right. Yeah, absolutely. And that's really a thing that's really important to take into consideration, you guys, because you want to make sure that everything is going at its scheduled time that it needs to go. And you are the one that has to keep in track. Like when we go on to paying quarterly taxes, when you guys are making enough money to have to submit quarterly taxes, you need to know when those deadlines are. And that's one of the nice things that's inside of my QuickBooks. It actually does tell me when taxes are due. It'll say to me, like right now, obviously it's April 15th right now is the next to it. Quarterly tax deadline, April 15th. And so it tells you there. So there's no guessing. It's right there. And you can't miss that. And I really, really appreciate that. Because if you, let's say you do miss, like you screw up your first year, it happens. Look, nobody's perfect, right? And so if you do screw up in your first year, and let's say you end up owing taxes that you don't have the money for, you can get put onto a payment plan here in the US. But they are going to charge you for being late all of those other quarters. So you get a late fee and a percentage that you haven't paid. And that's not fun. Not fun at all. But Kyle wouldn't know anything about that. So
I've tried to stay on top of it as much as possible. But the other thing that I feel like everyone's kind of on their own timeline. But I know it was a big deal for me when I finally realized, okay, I've been engaged. I need to have like a constant source of income coming in, because when you're just doing it as a hobby, you'll pay yourself whenever you get paid. But when you're looking at it as your sole income, you really have to start looking at it as, I need to know that I have money coming in on a regular basis, and it comes in on the 1st of the month or the 15th, or pay yourself twice or once or what have you, just so that you can budget and have things available when you need them. But I know that, at least for my tutoring business, and I'm probably going to be doing this with my dance business too, is that we set things up as an SCorp just to kind of alleviate the self-employment tax, which is pretty harsh, of like 15%, which is crazy.
Right.
And basically using that, we've been able to set up payroll. So instead of just, writing a check as a distribution, you're writing it as your salary check for the month. So basically, on a quarterly basis, I'm paying payroll taxes and I'm also paying income taxes based off of, the net amount that I'm taking in. So that's just been helpful to know that, okay, you got the money in the bank, you're making this payment every single month to yourself instead of it fluctuating. Oh, I had a good month, I pay myself X, or I had a bad month and I paid myself Y. Just a little bit easier to kind of say, hey, I'm going to pay myself this every single month. If you have that stability and can do that. If you're not there yet, don't worry about it. But I had to kind of push myself into that space and make it happen just based on my life situation. So.
Yeah, and just for those of you guys who are like, well, what's the difference? We've got the sole proprietor, we have an LLC, and we have an SCorp. I started my online tutoring business as a sole proprietor. I mean, it's the easiest one for you to be able to set up. It does not take into consideration of like you are your company, which it kind of makes sense because you are the company. Like you don't have any employees or anything like that. But here's the thing, and if you're the kind of person who gets a little bit nervous about getting sued, I know there's lots of you guys that are out there, that is not the one for you. You definitely want to be an LLC if you have that fear of getting sued. Now, I've not actually heard of any online tutor getting sued, and I have been running the Ultimate Support Group for Online Tutors for the last 8 years, and nobody has ever shared with me that they have gotten sued with online tutoring. So the likelihood of you getting sued is extremely low. So that there's that piece of it. But if you're the person who worries about it, then I would say just for that peace of mind, go be an LLC where you are going to completely, remove yourself from your business. You have a business, you do have to set up a separate business account. You can no longer just keep all of your finances in one place. You can't use now your business card as a way to be able to pay for groceries or something like that, right? You have to keep it completely separate because you're saying, here's the business and here I am. And that way, if you get sued, they can only sue you for the money from your business. They cannot sue you and everything that you own. So that can get a little dicey for people, and they get really scared when you begin bringing that on up. But again, people are more likely being an online tutor. It's so easy to fire you and hire someone else. That's usually the route that they go. Nobody really wants to go through that whole entire, I'm going to sue them. And like, it really isn't like this big, huge fear that a lot of people put onto it. But I also understand that fear is real for a lot of people. So we've got the SCorp. Maybe you could explain a little bit more, like how is the SCorp? You've got the payroll that kind of goes along with it. That now you're saying, okay, I'm going to be put onto the payroll. You also have to create another like you have to create a committee, right?
I do not. So basically, I'm set up as a single member LLC.
Okay.
So I'm separate from my personal. My personal is separate from my business. But basically, the SCorp is basically just looked at as we're filed as an SCorp for taxes so that I could set up that payroll. And it's just a way that you're going to kind of save a little bit of money in the long run to get around that self-employment tax, like I said, that comes with any LLC. So I would probably I don't want to venture into exactly the specifics, but I know just from what my accountant told me, he kind of steered me in that direction just to take advantage of some of the tax benefits.
It's so funny because like different
so.
tax accountants too will give you different advice, just so you guys know, because our tax person like totally steered us in the other direction and was like, no, don't do that. Go as an LLC, don't go as the SCorp, and you have to like start a board and all this stuff. And I was like,
I haven't set up any board, and
That's
it's been
good.
working out good for a couple of years.
Yeah, I'm
so.
sure you're fine. I'm sure you're fine. But again, you guys, like, definitely talk to somebody who knows what they're talking about. That will definitely help it. Those of you that are going on in to check on out the reference guide that we created for you. I put another link in there for those of you who are like, oh, what reference guide? It kind of goes through all the basics of things that you need to know about taxes so that you guys can be prepared for it. The link is inside of there. Once you do the payment, it's only $10 to be able to get the reference guide. You'll get it inside of your email. So I know lots of people are asking questions like, what is it? Yes, it's called an SCorp, Lynn. But at this point, you're in the beginning stages. SCorp is not where you need to go. Either set yourself up
Go
as a
with
sole
single member
proprietor
LLC.
or an
Yeah.
LLC. Yeah, either one of those is going to be fine to be able to set up your business with right now. So, and it doesn't cost that much to be able to set up as an LLC. Now, I am going to give you guys some warning. If you go online to be able to set up your LLC, you will get charged a lot of money every single year. So don't go that route, okay? Go to your state website. So I had to go to Wisconsin Gov. So go to your state website and go to create an LLC there, because you won't get all of those other fees and taxes that some of those like online tax people they start collecting, like these crazy taxes. Like I remember, like my very first business I tried setting up, which was a total bomb. We set up an LLC, and it just ended up being like a $150 fee every single year. And then I was talking to a friend, and they were like, "Yeah, did you know that it only cost me like $26 a year to like do that?" I'm like, "Wait, what?" Now, since my first business bombed, that was a lot of money for me because I wasn't bringing in the money I thought it was going to bring in. So $150 is like all of my profit. No, I'm just kidding. So at that point, it was like, okay, well, let's get rid of that. And then when I did decide to start up an LLC again, and I looked on into it, I'm like, wow, that's totally reasonable. Like, why wouldn't you do that? You know, like the money thing shouldn't scare you guys, but definitely don't go to one of those online websites that's not part of the government to set it on up. All right. So we've got lots of things that we've really taken into consideration. Somebody asked if Dubsado is definitely like the number one place that tutors need to go. You know what? At the end of the day, having some kind of tracking system that links with your taxes is going to be amazing. Okay, so whether that's QuickBooks, whether that's Dubsado, whether that's some other shiny object that's out there that you know of, there isn't one that we suggest is the best one that you must go with, because as you can see, like, many have been successful. So those are the two that we know of, like right out of the gate, that are super helpful, and definitely check those out.
Can I put my 2 cents in real quick?
Yeah.
So if you guys are just getting started and you guys want the scheduling aspect and the ability to make payments and set up packages, I'd probably go with either Acuity, which I still use, or I've looked into Tutor. Is it Tutorbird?
Yeah, they changed their name.
Yeah. They used to be My School Books, right?
Yep.
And I didn't know what I wanted to do yet. And I know that for me, the Dubsado option, it took me a while to customize everything. Again, it's not built for tutors. It's built more for creatives like photographers, people that are shooting videos, stuff like that have clientele. But I was able to kind of customize it to fit my needs. Because again, you have to think, okay, well, I have the parents' information, I have the students' information. There's ways to do it, but if you're not looking at putting in all the time to build those systems in, you might feel like a little overwhelmed, let's say.
Sure.
But it's definitely something that I was able to do, and I'm glad that I did. But I just want people to know that it's not like Tutorbird. Tutorbird is designed for tutors, and I would say Dubsado has so many cool features, but you're going to have to really play with it to make it fit you.
Right.
Like I said, Dubsado, the cool thing with Dubsado is that it has automation features. So I was kind of spelling out, I really don't don't even touch things until I actually call people on the phone. It does it all for me. Takes their names, plugs it into emails, customizes it completely. But you got to put a lot of work in on the front end to make sure that your automations are actually working. You don't want to send out an automated email that is like all messed up, because right off the bat, the person you're communicating with is going to have a bad impression. So
yeah, Tutorbird does that as well. So I have played with Tutorbird, but now again, this is not like a tax tool, you guys. So that is just like being able to keep all of the elements of your tutoring business all kind of like in one place. And some of the elements are very good, and some of the elements are just okay. Like you can tell they just like plug something on in just to say that they had it, like a website, right? Like their website designing tool is not very good, but their ability to create like a form where you collect all that information is very good, and I still utilize that tool as well. And so then automatically I get like the email that says, and I can send out automated emails to my clients specifically with their names on them if I wanted to. I usually just go through my Gmail, but it is definitely easy. Now Radiant 70 wants to know, is it easy to go from Acuity to Dubsado later? He plugs Acuity and Dubsado together.
They like so Acuity could totally work on its own. That's what I started with. That was the first system I used, and it was great. You were able to, it syncs up with your Google Calendar, so it only shows you the time slots that are available. You can set different time slots for different types of tutoring that you have, which is great. And it handles all of the payment, sends it right into your bank account. And that's great. I needed something in addition because I was losing track of my leads and where people were in my process. Because it's good when you have 4 students. When you have 35, you got to know where everybody is and where leads are, because you want to keep track of them. So that's why I was looking for another tool. But the way I do it, I invoice people in Dubsado. Hey, they're getting this package. And then I just go into Acuity and add that package to their name. So it's kind of like a one step thing. And then I just schedule them.
Yeah. And every tutor doesn't run their business exactly the same, you guys. So you may hear advice on here and hear lots of different opinions. That's because you get to choose what is going to work best for your business. Because as you do ACT prep, right, Kyle? Do you do SAT as well, or just ACT?
Right now, just ACT, but go ahead.
So he does the ACT prep, and selling packages is the best system for him, right? And then for people like me who, I continually kind of work with my students throughout the entire year, I have them on automatic payments. And so I just set that up, and I don't really have to think about it. It just, each month, it just takes care of itself inside of either PayPal or Stripe, and it's taken care of. So just know that these are just, Acuity and Calendly are very similar. Now, I'm not sure if I heard this correctly from another tutor. They said that Acuity charges like another processing fee when people are scheduling the times and paying. Is that true?
I don't believe so. I mean, I pay a yearly, well, actually for my tutoring business, because I have Squarespace, it's free. So I got grandfathered in, which was really nice. Okay. But for my dance business, I do pay like a yearly fee. I think it's a couple $100 or something like that. But I don't think there's an additional Acuity fee on top of the 2.9% that like Stripe or Square might use. But cool thing with Dubsado, they've introduced ACH checking, where it's only like 0.8%. So when I'm selling packages that are upwards of thousands of dollars, if you can cut it down to 0.8% instead of 2.9, like that's kind of a big deal. So right now I have it set to just set it at ACH, and if they ask for credit, then I can flip it. But
sure. Stripe has done the exact same thing. For those of you that are using Stripe, they have just changed on over that you can do ACH. So those of you who have people saying, do you do bank transfers? Here in the U.S., that's not a normal thing. We don't do bank-to-bank transfers. Like I don't give people my bank account and then they just send the money to my bank account to avoid any fees whatsoever, like they do over in the UK. Here, we've been used to just being paid with the credit card and having to take that fee. But now with the ACH, it is going to be a lot lower percentage that's taken because of that. So if anybody ever does ask, you can set that up, which is really, really awesome. The only thing you have to send them is like your name, your address, and like your telephone number, I believe it was. And then as long as they have that information, then they can send you the ACH. So, which is very, very cool. I love it. So, oh my gosh, awesome, awesome. So yes, Acuity and Calendly, and then there's also the other one that people like, which is 10 to 8. Those are all tools for being able to schedule you. I definitely think it's an awesome thing to have a scheduler. It makes life a lot easier. Yes, ACH is part of Stripe.
Jasmine made a good point too. Contracts for your work, got to get that done. Got to get something. Even if in the beginning it's something that's handwritten or, that they're signing physically, do that. But I know Dubsado, it really made my life easier because you could create the form and have them electronically sign, and it's there and it's stored and it's official like document. So there's other ways to do that. But instead of asking somebody to print out my PDF and sign it and then scan it in, and then it gets lost. It's been so much easier just to say, yep, we can get started when you sign the agreement. And they usually do it within an hour or so. So it's made it easier.
Nice. Yeah, I don't have people sign an agreement. I just send them what the expectations are and we go from there. And I haven't actually had any problems with that at all. Since I've started doing that. But I know, again, they're, everybody is very, very different. And they're like, you know what, in case anybody were to do something or, question it or want to sue me for it, then you definitely want to be able to have a contract in place.
Yeah.
If you're ever working or collaborating with another person, you absolutely want to be able to have like something in writing, because when we're talking about money and now you got to split money between like two people, things get funky. And people get weird. And so you absolutely want to be able to have a contract in place, in writing, so that everybody knows who's going to get what and when, and there are no questions about that whatsoever.
I know with me, Joanne, scheduling out into the future for ACT prep, people put down a down payment to reserve their slot, which for me is non-refundable. So it's definitely something that if you're doing stuff like that, where you're saying, I'm reserving this spot, you definitely want to have something so that nobody can question that you owe them their deposit back or something like that. It's almost like a retainer if you're doing stuff like that. If you're just doing regular week-to-week tutoring, you might not need it.
Yeah. And again, you guys, you're going to find the systems that are going to work best for you. So hopefully you've been able to learn some information about taxes, things to think about, things to consider, whether you're in Canada or you're in the United States, that you'll be able to utilize inside of your business. And next week, we're going to be chatting about Google Classrooms. So if you've ever wondered how you can be able to use Google Classrooms for your tutoring business, then come and join us, and we would love to be able to have you.
I didn't even know I could use it. I tried once and it said, nope, you're not allowed. So
yes, you are now able to use them as anybody can actually use it in the world. It is no longer just for schools, and tutors can use it. So I hope you guys will join us next week so you can learn more about how to use Google Classrooms. All right, you guys, enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you all soon. Bye.
Thanks,